Hello, welcome. I'm here joined by my good friend and meditation teacher, Tobi. He is here in Chiang Mai. We just
Hey.
went out for lunch and spent some time exploring a really cool lot near my house. I'm actually a little curious myself. When you meet someone, how do you introduce yourself as a spiritual teacher or a meditation teacher or no boxes or
Not really, just Toby.
just Tobi?
Just
Okay.
Toby's good.
Okay, but I guess if you had to put it in like some box for people who are kind of looking to,
If someone asks me what do you do,
yeah,
well I can say I teach meditation.
okay,
Yeah.
teach meditation. So I went on Tobi's retreat almost a year ago,
Mm.
and it was really amazing. It's in Phuket, South Thailand, very beautiful, and he was telling me about all these changes he's making and all this. So I'm curious, what is the main struggle you see people go through when they go on your retreats? Because you've seen now hundreds of students, thousands,
No, hundreds.
hundreds.
Yeah, hundreds.
Okay.
Well, the main thing that I observe is that people are mostly really wired from their lifestyles, very stressed, burned out, and so there's a lot of need to relax, to wind down, to actually do less.
Mhm.
Many people have trouble with overuse of phones, smartphones, right? Internet, constantly being online, constantly being flooded by information.
Right.
It really taxes. Right?
Like this
So-
video.
like this video, right there. So yeah, what it does is it really winds people up in a lot of ways, and so they have a hard time to actually relax.
Mhm.
And we never notice this really until we actually try to consciously relax.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you're in a retreat, you have nothing to do. You don't have many distractions. Or at least you're not encouraged to go after all these distractions, and then so you will see yourself in a very unfiltered way as you are, and then we see that there's a lot of stress. There's a lot of
Mhm.
nervous tension, nervous energy, all that. This is what people mostly struggle with in the beginning.
Yeah, do you feel like it's almost like when we get to this point of like, oh, I don't have any stress or worries or things to do,
Mm.
that's where the peace is, but we're so used to not having that we're kind of afraid of it.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
almost as if, and then we like look for another problem to pull in so we can be back in that familiar state.
Yeah, you can say that. Yeah, there's this gaps that arise, right? Even we call it like an awkward silence in a conversation. That's a gap, and very often it's felt as awkward. And not only these gaps in conversation, but also gaps of just being busy for the sake of being busy. If there's nothing to do, many people are at first really uncomfortable with that. But if you do have good guidance, if you do have someone pointing out, look, see, this is what's going to happen, you'll probably be a bit uncomfortable, but here's what you can do to become more comfortable in these states, to become more comfortable with yourself, really. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, because a lot of times or at least for me, you keep yourself busy as a kind of way to distract yourself from yourself. It's like, oh, if I go to the gym or play more music or text more people, it's just another obstacle
Yes.
preventing yourself from. Cool. All right, we're gonna turn off the AC. Hopefully the sound is a little bit better.
Yeah.
You talked about social media and having your phone. You're probably the only spiritual teacher, meditation teacher, no labels that I've come encounter with that is so active on social media and posting videos and Instagram, and it's all amazing stuff. It's this breath of relief because everything else is like taking away energy, and I feel like Tobi does a great job giving energy and insights and reminding me to be present when I scroll through my feed. What's your tip or secret to playing the social media game and being online, but at the same time not letting it distract you from your presence?
Well, not letting it distract you. Impossible.
Impossible. That's why it's there.
When you're engaged with social media, it's normal to be distracted by it. I think it's more important to not be consumed by it,
Okay.
Yeah, but distraction will be necessary when you're engaged with social media. If you need to do it for business, if you need to do it to kind of attract more followers or whatever it is that you're doing on social media, it's definitely there will be a great amount of distraction. So for me, what I do is I try to time it. I try to time my use of social media, my use of phone, meaning like, for example, in the evening times, I usually don't use the phone from, I don't know, 4 p.m. Just, this is what I can do, right? From 4 p.m. until next morning at 10 a.m. Yeah, until everything is set up. I start my day, everything is rolling properly. Then I start to use social media and all these kind of things at certain specific times during the day. That's what helps me to keep that organized and to keep it not just to go after it randomly whenever I feel like it, but really to organize it. Yeah, that's what I do.
So I like that. It's kind of admitting, hey, this is a distraction, but let's be intentional when to use this distraction and not just throw it into our lives when we're not feeling well, when we're stressed, or in between things. Because I think for me personally, it comes up like you're waiting in line and you have this urge, or you're like, even when I'm going to the bathroom, you want to pull it out. And I think those types of distractions are far more detrimental versus, okay, today between 11 and 12, that's social media time, I'm going to go on and respond and stuff like that. Okay.
That's a possible thing. You could also play with the urges. You can use the
urges.
You can use the urge that arises when you're, for example, standing in line, as you said. If you feel the urge to check, I need to check, and when you feel that urge, not to follow it and see where does that bring you? What happens when you're not following this impulse? What happens inside of yourself? What would that gap reveal? Right there is it. There it is, the gap. You're just standing in line. There's nothing to do. Just waiting there, just being there. Now, if you're not filling it with any content, what do you get to know about yourself? And for most people, probably it's the fact that they suffer, that they're stressed.
Right.
And it reveals that this is the underlying force that makes you want to check. It's the fact that you're uncomfortable with yourself, uncomfortable with silence, uncomfortable with being. Therefore, we take doing as a refuge. So doing is very often our refuge, thereby creating more stress, which then can only be alleviated by doing more. That's the logic of doing, right? But here we are introducing another force into our life, the force of being. Just being there and seeing yourself as you actually are right now, learning from what you're going through right there in this moment, right here and now.
Okay. And what about combining being and doing? Can you do this at the same time, or is it one or the other?
No, it's not one or the other in my experience. You can very well be active, while at the same time rest in your center, being aware.
Okay.
Like us talking right now, for example, you can rest in a center of awareness. You can be very much aware. Like you don't have to assume a posture or anything.
Just
like
make
that.
it look cool, right? That's
like, hey guys,
I'm aware now.
I'm very aware. Yeah.
You're not aware unless you do this and close your eyes.
Yes, exactly. That's many people have this misconceptions, right? That you have to kind of look a certain way to signal to everyone around you that you're very aware, very conscious. But this is an inside job, right? As is often said. You want to be aware, for example. Right now I'm talking, and at the same time there is an awareness of words coming out of my mouth. So it's a bit like there's a listening too.
Wow.
I'm not lost in the talking, at least right now. There is a force of listening at the same time, like being self-aware while I talk. That brings another quality into the talking.
Yes, this whole new dimension, right?
Exactly, yeah.
And that's essentially expanding your consciousness, right?
It does, yeah, you can say it like this, yeah.
Wow.
How do you feel it when you now talk, when you say something, at the same time you hear your own voice? How is that?
Yeah, it's interesting.
Isn't it?
Yeah, especially so we have the video screen, we can see ourselves. So it's almost just like when I look at that, you can see what you're doing.
Yeah.
It's like becoming the observer
Exactly.
while you're talking. I like it. It's kind of this like non-identification with me. It's like you're just like the air listening to yourself talk.
Exactly. There's just sound arising through your throat, your tongue, the air. And now, isn't that weird?
Wow, this is deep stuff.
Yeah. And in fact, it's like most of the deep stuff, it isn't really that deep in an intellectual way. It just takes you very deeply into a sense of being here, doesn't it?
Yeah.
See?
All right, so there's the airplane. Let's use that as an example to be.
There you go.
An opportunity.
Exactly. There's always these sounds. And then just listening to them, right? It takes you into what is.
In the present moment, you know?
That's the point.
Instead of being like, oh, I hope an airplane doesn't come and ruin our interview. It's like,
exactly.
Oh, there's the airplane.
Yeah. Or not even the interview, maybe your meditation practice. Like
anything.
Your neighbors start hanging up pictures on their walls while you're meditating, so that this should be integrated. It shouldn't be an obstacle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so one thing I would like to ask, and this is from my personal desire to learn from you, is when I'm singing or presenting something like this, any tips of how to not get lost in the talking? Because for me, if I use too much energy, especially with singing when I'm on stage, I love it and it's so much fun, but then I can be absorbed by the music, by the singing, and then when I come back into my body, sometimes I have a headache or I'm low energy, and I'm trying to train myself to, in the middle of the song, come back to the breath. Any tips for myself or anyone who kind of performs or speaks of staying present and being self-aware while you're, performing your art and sharing in that sense?
Well, I would say like 3 things maybe.
Okay.
The first one is intention. That's very important. So before you go on stage or whatever you do, and your intention is, I want to do this mindfully. I want to do this without losing my center, or I want to do this while being aware of doing it. Okay, so this is your intention. That's really important. The stronger your intention is, the stronger you feel, you can say, hungry for it. I really want to do this. The more likely it is that you come to the second step, which is remembering while you are performing. You remember your intent. And mindfulness in the traditional word that is used here in Pali language, for example, is sati.
Sati, yeah.
So the mindfulness, which means something like remembrance, is very often also translated as remembrance. So that's that remembrance. You remember what you are intending. You remember to fill your mind with the task at hand, to keep your mind full of the task at hand. So for example, you're singing, you're spacing out. You can be mindful of spacing out while you sing. You can be mindful of being fully absorbed in the song and really enjoying it. That you can still be mindful of that. Being absorbed in a song or in something doesn't mean that you have to lose your awareness. And the third point is consistency. You have to kind of do this a lot.
Practice.
To get good at this, right? So intention, remembering your intent, basically practicing it, becoming aware, like, oh, right now I'm talking. I forgot just now. Now I remember it. So I remembered, okay,
nice.
now I'm
Great.
talking.
Step 2.
Right? That's step 2. And now I need to repeat that. That's step 3. So I need to keep it in mind. So I establish my intent right now again and say, okay, I shall not lose my awareness of talking. So I want to keep it alive as long as I can. It's like a nice game you can play.
Yeah, I like it. It's a game.
Yes.
It's not a task or a chore.
Yes. As my teacher always says, sorry, the path, or play the path.
Yeah. I like that. Play the path.
It's not a serious, somber thing. Meditation, spiritual practice, not at all. Even though many people who go to retreats and all that have become very, very serious and very, in a way you can say, very self-absorbed. For many newbies in meditation, it's often the case we become very identified with this meditation image and become very self-absorbed in this whole spirituality game. And then again, we need to learn to develop this awareness of what am I doing right now? So this is a good question to ask yourself. What am I doing right now? This is not to judge yourself, but this is more to wake up to what you're doing right now.
Yeah, and when you mentioned play, So we were just joking over lunch, and one thing I really love about you is you don't take yourself too seriously.
I don't.
And I think it was Alan Watts in one of his lectures. He said, "You should take life sincerely, but not seriously."
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like a lot of spiritual teachers, or any area of life, work, music, they take it too seriously. Do you have any tips or thoughts on that? Because I feel like a lot of people, they see, oh, I gotta meditate, no smiling. You know, it's like I can't have fun. It has to be serious.
Yeah. Well, it can turn into the opposite. For example, if I tell you, well, don't be serious, don't take it so seriously, but do it sincerely, then that can become your thing. Now, I'm a spiritual practitioner, therefore I need to be humorous all the time.
Yeah, I guess it's still.
Yeah, it's about sincerity, as Alan Watts nicely pointed out. The whole path is about sincerity. It's about honestly seeing what is, just as it is. It's not so much about forming anything like I need to be very serious, or I need to be very humorous, or I need to be a very certain way so that I'm being the right way. It's more about seeing what is as it is, and that includes, of course, all these neurotic tendencies of self, of our egos. It includes all these fabrications in our mind of how I need to be, how I should be, how I could be, how I could have been, and all that kind of stuff. Just to see that is a very good first step, and then learning from that how it very often causes so much unnecessary suffering. How that is unnecessary, therefore we can drop it.
Yeah. Alright, so now I'm aware of the fact that I can't come up with another question.
That's okay, yeah.
That's good. Okay.
So what happens in the silence then?
Peace.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice. That's actually one thing I've been working on, because, you know, I write music and songs, and I found myself forcing too many. I'm like, all right, I gotta write a song about happiness and meditation and this and that. It just became too much. And my recent strategy is like, do nothing.
Okay.
And then after like a week, 2 weeks, all of a sudden, out of silence, if you will, from a metaphorical music standpoint, a song will just like throw up out of me. It just comes out.
There you go.
And do you think that's the same with, you know, life and insights and wisdom and ideas?
Yeah,
as well?
Absolutely. See, here we're at the next question, naturally, without forcing any of it. See, that's just how it nicely works. If you learn to listen to life, then life can talk to you. If you learn to listen to that language of life, as it expresses itself through emotions, thoughts, situations, various situations, surroundings, people you meet, interact with, then you will eventually notice, wow, there's a lot to learn here. There's a lot to hear, and if you start to listen and you start to feel guided, so at least that's the case in my case.
Right.
I feel very often guided because I'm putting more attention to what does this moment actually demand, rather than what do I want from this moment, what do I demand from this situation, what do I want? Well, I want to come across like really spiritual and nice. I want to come across as really knowing my stuff, giving the right answers. Well, that here I'm blocking myself,
Right.
isn't it? So if I'm listening, if I'm open instead to myself, to you, to the situation, then I can fit into it naturally. So in that silence of just being here, just listening to what is, there's incredible power, there's an incredible amount of wisdom, and it's just so readily available. All we need to do is listen.
Yeah. Wow, beautifully said. And I think it's a mindset shift for me. It's kind of from this egoic, hey, what can I gain from this situation? So for me, it's like, oh, how can I use Tobi to look cool on my show and have other people, you know, wherever the mind takes it.
Such funny ideas.
Right. Versus, all right, what can I add to the situation? How can I be of service to whoever's out there? How can I make you feel comfortable, or say whatever's coming from, you know, my heart that wants to emerge? And I think that slight change in perspective is, like you said, intention. It completely shifts the intention.
Yeah. Sincerity. That's
Sincerity.
what sincerity is. You're not trying anything.
Yeah.
There's no trying here.
It's just doing.
And just two
both.
human beings just sitting there,
Right.
just having a conversation.
Okay.
There is no future involved. No trying to use this conversation as a means. This is not a means.
Yeah, that's
today.
getting in the way.
Yeah.
Okay. So one question I have a lot of strong intuitive pulls. Like you said, you start listening to life. It kind of tells you what to do. But for me, sometimes those actionable guidances, whatever you want to call it, clues. I like the word clue. It's just like, not do this. It's kind of like a clue. Hey, maybe you should do that. How do you find the balance between something it's kind of set in the future? For example, if I have this intuitive feeling like, to write a song about some specific topic, but not in that moment. How do you decide between that, like, all right, my intuition told me I should do it, but then when you sit down to do it, how do you do that while being present, while not having those same thoughts that you had the night before? Because those are from the past and things may change. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, first of all, intuition is not really trustworthy. Many people think, it's intuition, therefore it must be really trustworthy. Let's say it like this: intuition is not trustworthy when it comes to the idea that happiness is in the future and that my intuition leads me to a happier space.
Okay.
In that sense, it's not trustworthy, because happiness is now.
Right. Okay.
Life is now. This is it. Everything else is truly a thought. It's just a thought. And having thoughts about future projects, having an impulse, like, okay, I want to do this kind of song, I want to do this as soon as possible. It sets an intent, right? And that intent, it lives as an undercurrent to all your actions. And in the right moment, in the right time, that intent will resurface so that this song can be born. So, but until then, you don't have to worry about it. It's like, okay, I set the intent, done. When that finally will happen, we don't know. That's not sure. Unless you really intend it to be sure. And you say, tomorrow at 3 a.m. I want this to happen, or at 3 p.m.
Okay.
Yeah, then that's more sure. And it also is an undercurrent, this intention. It is a more strong, more clear intention. It will come to fruition then tomorrow at 3 p.m.
So the specifics about 3 p.m., is that from, a good place of intention and life talking to you, or is that mind-made of, I have to make it
That's
at 3 p.m.?
mind-made. That's mind-made. Therefore, it's not reliable in terms of happiness. It's just a plan. The problem for many people is that they get caught up with plans. It means they demand from their planning that it will have to make them happy.
Okay.
That will have to lead to comfort. So many people, that's another thing, by the way, that happens a lot in the retreats. People come and they say, I'm doing this because at the moment I'm in between two jobs. And I've been offered 2 new jobs. And so should I take job A or job B? Now there it is. We're stressing out about a future decision. Should I do this A or B? What do we really want to say with that is, will A make me happy or will B make me happy? Or for some people who are more based on fear, they say, will A lead to my demise or B?
Or which is going to be more painful.
Which is going to be more painful. So depending on what kind of type of, are you more going towards the hope spectrum or the fear spectrum?
Right, yeah.
So, and then, of course, we try to make sure, but you can't make sure. That's the stress, because you don't know. You don't know. And that freaks people out. I don't know.
Right.
Is A good or is B good? Which one is it?
They want to know right now.
I want to know now.
And that's causing suffering.
It's causing suffering because you don't know. The only thing you do know is that you can always make a decision right now. It's not that only one decision is left. Like you have a decision tank when you're born, and there are 500,667 decisions for you, and you almost run out of them. You have one decision left, and it's, will you take job A or will you take job B? But no, you have infinite amount of decisions.
Right.
You can always decide what you're going to do. But in terms of happiness, it'll never work out. Ever. It'll be more actions, more activities, more things to do. But happiness is not in doing. it's in being. That's the biggest misunderstanding people have. They think that true happiness is within the realm of doing, of having, of becoming. But that's not true.
Yeah, of gaining, achieving,
Yes.
right? It's always the next step away that they gotta
Exactly.
go reach for. Okay.
The Tibetans put it nicely. They have this example of a diamond that is encrusted in these layers and layers of mud and dirt. And what you need to do is not add more layers of mud and dirt so you get to the diamond. You kind of need to let go of all these things that obstruct the diamond.
Mm-hmm.
So this is similar when it comes to true happiness, when it comes to meditation. It's going really the other way.
Taking things away.
Yeah.
Okay. No job at all.
Well, it's not about not having a job either. It's about stripping down to what is. You want to be with truth, not with trying to. Well, life is not a trying.
It's a being. No, but I get that. I
Yes,
think,
yes.
and in the U.S. at least, I know I just watched a documentary on minimalism, and that's kind of blowing up because people are realizing they don't need all this stuff in their house. It's just cluttering and causing more pain and suffering and attachment, and
Yes.
less is more in a sense that you become free by, selling and getting rid of all your stuff and just having.
You will see that doesn't really work either, because
No.
people again.
Is that still
They
doing?
they think about stuff being the cause of their misery. It's not stuff. It's not stuff. So first they think, oh, it's by amassing stuff in my home that I can be happy. Now they think the other way around. No, it didn't do the trick. So it must be the stuff's fault that I'm unhappy. So let's get rid of all the stuff so that I will be happy. No, it's not. It's not. Again, we're looking away from ourselves continuously. We're looking at our living space. We're looking into our relationships. We're looking into our work. And then we try to change these things around. And all we ever get is, changing things around, but not happiness.
Okay. So you're saying maybe it starts with, all right, I just want to be and then chill and hang out. And then as a byproduct, you're like, wow, I haven't used this part of my closet in 6 weeks. Let's get rid of it. And you start with the being, the meditation.
Yeah.
And then the doing kind of falls into place, but to support the being.
Yeah. How would your doing look like in life if you were perfectly happy? What kind of doing would come out of that?
Happiness, right?
Yeah.
Happy
Would it
doing.
be beneficial? Would it be beneficial to others, for example? It's a simple question. If I was truly happy,
Are you happy? You seem like a
would
happy
that be?
guy.
I'm pretty happy. Yes. So if that happiness turns into action, then what does that action do? Does it lead to benefit or does it lead to harm? It's pretty simple, right? And I'm not talking about happiness like roller coaster funfair happiness.
Okay.
I'm talking about a very, very solid sense of being completely satisfied with what
contentment,
is.
maybe.
Yeah.
Just
I'm feeling good in what is.
being okay. Yeah.
Yes, being okay with truth.